Wow,
Somebody's loud. Like water running.
Hello, lovelies. How is everybody? Welcome. Happy New Year. I think we got the water running sound. Good. It's just something, woo, yeah, okay. My little device is just going on a little dance. Hi, Happy New Year. It's so good to see you guys. So I muted you because I wanted to just get the sound out. Does that mean you guys can't unmute now? Do you guys have your controls?
Yeah, we're good.
You're good? Okay, great.
Yep.
Hi. All right. So here we go. Mercury went direct today. So it's still a little dicey in the Mercury retrograde land, but we're in a new year. I'm so happy to see you. It feels like it's been like a year since we saw each other just 2 weeks ago. I hope you all had a lovely end of the year, whatever you were celebrating. I hope that you are raring to go at the beginning of this new year. I actually have something super fun for us specific to the new year. So I can't wait. I do want to just mention before we dive in, be sure you have paper today because the workshopping that we're going to do, Cheryl's like, I got you. I got tons of paper. I know, prepared. Just make sure you have a couple pieces of paper because you're going to want to write. We're going to do a workshopping. We're going to workshop out how to set us up for the year. So, and I just want to say, this is the time of year where people are like, yay, set a New Year's resolution. Don't you dare set a New Year's resolution. They don't work. Oh, New Year's resolutions only work for some people. No, New Year's resolutions, if you don't have one, you won't make it. I get it. There's a lot of information out there. We're not setting a New Year's resolution today, but we are setting the course for a successful year because that's what I'm here for. I'm here for all of us to be super successful as practitioners. If you are here for the 100th time, I haven't been keeping track, but I'm so glad you're here. If you're here for the very first time, also still not keeping track, but welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, if you're watching on the replay, awesome. Let us know that you're here. Hit the like button, do the things, hit the bells, all the things so that we know that you're here and that you get notified when we do go live, which is every Tuesday at noon Eastern. What's this all about? Who's it for? It's for practitioners, both manual and movement practitioners. Anybody who's seeing clients as a living, you're welcome here. What we're up to each week is one way each week that I can support you in doing that even better. So again, I probably should introduce myself. I'm Gina Schatz. I'm the developer of the Schatz method. I've been working as a manual and movement practitioner for a few decades. If you're doing the math, I met somebody over the holidays who said, no way has that been 30 years. You're barely older than that. And I was like, okay, I'll buy you a drink. Sure. So it's been, but it has been a minute. And the only reason I boast about that is because there's some real stats that we all get to work with. And those stats I repeat often because it's just good to be reminded and because they're real and we get to change the stats. The stats are that the average career span of a bodywork therapist, massage therapist specifically, and most body workers never lasts longer or doesn't last longer than 4 to 6 years. So usually massage therapists go to school, body workers do a training, they go out there in the world, and within 4 years, they're done. They didn't make it, they're done. And there's a lot of reasons why those metrics are what they are. I am here, of course, to change that. And then in the world of movement, it's not much different. The average career span of a movement practitioner, yogis, Pilates, personal trainers, is that most of them do not work in a way that provides them a full-time salary. They're usually doing something else on the side and wanting to do their movement work full-time. So those are sobering numbers, and they're real, and also they don't have to be our numbers. And that's, again, why I boast about it's been several decades for me. So somehow, somewhere along the way, I figured out how to make that number stretch from 4 to 6 years and never full-time to 30 years full-time. And I mean that sincerely, not as a way to be braggadocious, although we should brag about our successes, but as a way to let you know that like what I'm up to here each week, especially starting the new year, is sincere because I want that to be your story too. I want all of us who are investing in our career to be able to do that full-time with a full-time living, and whatever I can do to support you in doing that is why I'm here. On Tuesdays, we go for, a conversation piece because we're here for an hour, and we're here for an hour every week. And it's just me rolling it out. We're not officially sponsored, although my training academy is sponsoring this hour for you. So if there's any other training that we can support you with, by all means, please let us know that, because you get to have a full-time career doing what you love, making a good living. Okay. So if any of you are like, oh my gosh, what is making a good living? Isn't that thievery? Isn't that arrogant? Should I make a good? That's money story. That's money languaging. That's not what we're here for today, but just notice that, and you might want to write that down because that's in the way. That's definitely in the way. We're not stealing from anybody to make a living. We're actually stealing from ourselves when we don't. So how about that? Okay, so with all that to say, we're going to quest today. We're going to go on a vision quest of what do we get to create this year in the interest of doing what we love as practitioners and doing what we love well and serving our faces off and feeling really awesome about that this time next year, actually 2 weeks earlier, right? At the end of this year, at the end of 2024, December 31st, 2024, you're not working that day. You're not working that day. And you're actually looking back on the year of 2024 going, holy crap, I did it. Absolutely, I did it. And it was actually easier than I thought. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy. I'm so proud. And I feel like, wow, heck yeah, bring on 2025. So that's where I want you to be at the end of this year. And we're going to set that chart that territory right now. Okay, as we go today. So if you came in just after the top of the hour, welcome. I'm happy that you're here. Make sure you have paper and a pen with you today, because we're going to do a workshopping. We're going to do a workshopping hour today as we train through. Okay, so let's get into it. You guys ready? You guys ready to get right in? Yeah? Okay, perfect. So here's, how many of you actually have done vision questing of any kind? Vision questing, does this term mean anything to you? Or you're like, yeah kind of-ish? Okay, great. So you can do a vision quest on anything. You can do a vision quest on something that's happening next week. You can do a vision quest on something that's occurring 5 years down the line. You can do a vision quest for your whole life. You can do a vision quest for anything in particular. What we're going to focus on today in our workshop is vision questing this year, 2024, as a practitioner. Okay, so there's probably other areas of your life and experience that you also want to focus on, as you should, because we're all dynamic and whole. And for today, for this workshop, let's just keep it streamlined in you as a practitioner. Okay, you as a practitioner. And the reason I recommend that we streamline and focus is because it's really easy to do a couple things. It's easy to squirrel and get overwhelmed, which means you can't create what you are looking to create in a state of overwhelm. Doesn't work. It's also really easy to deflect and be like, ooh, that's a tender spot. I don't want to go there. I feel insecure about that or whatever. And so I don't want to go there. And if you can't see it, you can't do anything with it. Okay. So in order for us to really creatively create to ultimately create what we're up to, we must be willing to look at it. Okay. It's like saying when you move into a new house and there's nothing in the living room when you move in, you've got to be willing to look at the empty space and then bring your furniture in and then rearrange the furniture. There goes my pen. Right? So we don't want the house to be set up with all the furniture in it and then, you know, not be able to create what is ours to create. So I want you to be able to really look at just your work as a practitioner, right? It's a clean slate, it's the beginning of the year, and everything that you've created so far, where you are today as you start this journey in our questing, is perfect, right? It's perfect. So what we get to do when we create is we get to see things as they are and in neutrality. It's just what we're working with. This is the square footage of the space. There's nothing wrong with the square footage because it's bigger or smaller than somebody else's. This is just the space we're working with. This is the size of the living room. Where are we going to put the sofa? Right? So it's just neutral. This is just the space that we're working with here. Okay. When we start other than neutral, meaning when we start in a place of what's wrong, what's missing, or even negativity, again, you can't create from there. All you can do is condemn, and we don't create from that type of energy. We can only create from either a neutral place. What's wrong, Cheryl? What was the oh, I think that was on her end. Okay, we can either create from a neutral place, or we can create from an enthusiastic place. So what we're going to do is right now start at a neutral place, and then we're going to boost up the enthusiasm just a tiny bit. You guys ready for that? Okay, so as we're starting here, Honest Engine, how many of you are starting from a neutral place?
Yeah.
Yeah? Maybe, Lori? She's kind of? Okay, Cheryl's a yes?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, all right, perfect. Neutral is great. So what we're going to do at our start then, now that we're in neutral, or willing to be in neutral, which is also good. Willing to be in neutral and setting aside resistance is the key if you're thinking that you are willing, but you're going to fold your arms across your chest energetically and then see. Okay, so just set that aside and let's carry forward. Okay, and here's what I want you to write first. You're going to do 3 different columns on your page, or 3 different sections on your page. I actually recommend that you do a horizontal sheet and do column, column, and column, or 3 separate sheets altogether, 8.5 by 11 size, or portrait size, not landscape. So either 1 landscape size or 3 portrait oriented pieces of paper. I don't really recommend taking a portrait size and stacking 1, 2, and 3, because then there seems to be a hierarchy on that page. And what we actually want to create is momentum going forward. So it's either 1 page, forward to the next page, forward to the next page, or 1 column, forward to the next column, forward to the next column. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yes.
All right, great. So either 3 portrait pages or 1 landscape page with 3 different columns, and give yourselves room to write. Okay, column 1 or page 1, here's what I want you to craft. I want you to craft on that part 1, what you love, again, as a practitioner, what you love and what you're excellent at. Okay, so what you love and what you're excellent at. And I want you to include as much as you are willing to include. So what you love about the work that you do, what you love about the space that you work out of, what you love about your client responses, what you love about the impact that your career has on the world, what you love, and then what you excel at. You're obviously excelling somewhere or you wouldn't be here. You'd be waiting tables right now. Okay, and there's no shade on waiting tables, believe me. And if you do that at a time that's not right now, also no shade. My point is you're here, which means you're excellent at something. Okay, where you excel, what you're good at. These things that you're going to write in this first column or on this first page are reality based. And they're also celebratory based. So notice if you start negating what you're writing or minimizing what you're writing, and refrain from doing that. These are celebratory. If your list is short and potent and high energy, fine. If your list starts to get long and dreary, stop writing. Okay? So what you love and what you're excellent at. This is reality-based and celebratory-based ideas. And I'm going to have you write for 2 minutes. Okay, just begin to wrap that up. Okay. And did you guys notice that there was a lot more that you love than maybe you were consider? Yeah, Lori's like, yep, I already knew that question. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes when here's the truth. Let's just use a little physiology here. Our brain is designed to solve problems, and it is running 24/7. It's literally the only organ that's running at full throttle 24/7. There's other organs that go through different cycles during the day and slow down, et cetera, like our heart rate when we're sleeping, our digestion when we're asleep, et cetera. Not our brain. Our brain is running 24/7. So 24/7, it is wired to not only solve problems, but in order to solve a problem, it must find one. So it's really interesting to watch our brain just look at the negativity. It's also why we get pulled into negative conversations, why we get pulled into media and news, et cetera, if we're not being aware, right? And so what we're doing here in our list is obviously being aware, and notice in the awareness, our brain wasn't aware of the good as much as it is aware of the gaps, because it's wired to. It's wired to solve the problems. In order to solve a problem, it must see a problem. So it's a really good practice to keep reality-based measurables in front of you and refresh your memory on them regularly. And another reason why we wrote it down today instead of just talking about it. So whatever it is that you wrote on that page 1, you came into today. Before I even shared anything new with you, you already came here with that. If you came here with that, you're leaving this year with that. Absolutely. Right? And so what you get to do is keep looking at this list of what you came in, what you already possess regularly, at least once a quarter, maybe once a week, maybe before every client session, maybe before every quiz, whenever you get to remind yourself of what you came in with. You're already excellent at something, and there's lots of things that you love about what you do. Our intention today is to maximize that, to 4 times it, to 10x it, whatever that looks like for you. Okay? All right, you guys ready for the next part? Yes. Okay. The next part is part 3. Part 3, we're skipping part 2. We're leapfrogging over part 2. So if you're using pages, you're going to use page 3. If you're writing columns, you're going to write the 3rd column. Okay, so part 3. Part 3. What we're going to write in part 3 is another list. And in this list, it's what is your ideal year of 2024 look like? What does your ideal year look like? And notice that I'm saying it in present tense. Not what will it look like later? What do you hope for? Hope's not a plan. But what does it actually look like? So you're going to be putting yourself at December 31st, 2024, and you're going to be sitting there, just like we said at the beginning, going, oh my gosh, this is what I created. This was my experience this year. Holy smoke, I pulled it off. That's amazing. I wrote about this on January 2nd, and here we are less than 365 days later, and I pulled it off. So it's very present tense, okay? And yes, it's a list just like the one you wrote, where you work, what you do, what you're good at. And another really important piece on this part 3 that we didn't include in part 1 is, how does it feel to have this list that's part 3? How does it feel to have this list that's part 3? So what will your experience be on December 31st, 2024? And how will you feel about it? And this list is tangible and measurable. So as we talk about tangible and measurable, tangible, like how do you feel tangibly? And also, what do you have? What did you create? What are you experiencing? What do you earn? What are the numbers? How many clients are you seeing? How many dollars are you making? How many hours are you working? Right? The tangible and the measurables. And you're going to write it in present tense. I am experiencing, I am earning. Okay, present tense, part 3. I'm going to give you 2 more minutes. Go ahead and write. Okay, I'm beginning to wrap that up. I love watching you guys all write feverishly, like, yes, I'm going to make this happen. Yes, it's so good. Okay, a note of observation here. Notice on your part 3 list if there was any place where you added any doubt or resistance, and scrub it off. Put a black line through it and rewrite it. So we don't get to create from a place of resistance or condemnation or fear, right? So there's no fear. It's just, you're just writing. You're just writing. So notice if you already got into the mind game of there's a problem, I won't be able to make that happen. Notice if you already let your brain take you there instead of into just creative writing. It's just creative writing. Okay, and hopefully you don't have to edit for too long, but just notice if it was there. That's one of the ways, one of the sneaky but common ways that we get in our way for creating anytime we're up to something, right? So just notice that. Okay, and how many of you, after writing that list and taking out anything that needed to not be there, how many of you feel sort of excited about what's on your list? How many of you feel enthusiastic about part 3?
I do.
Yeah? Okay, excellent. All right, great. So from an excited place, we get to create. From an excited place, we get to launch our committed action. From an excited place, we get to go make it happen, right? That's the energy we want to be in. So that's awesome. Any of you willing to share what your year looks like and how you feel about it? We'll take like up to 2 shares. Anybody willing to share? I also did this exercise earlier today, which is why I'm lit up. I'm like, yeah, let's go. Anybody? Cheryl, you ready?
Sure.
Okay.
Which column 3?
Part 3.
Okay. I will double my client base.
I have.
will.
I have already. So
Oh, I have.
Yep,
I just have double client base, so have.
Yep.
I have. And I did write, I have tripled my income.
Yes.
I have improved my anatomy knowledge, and I can speak clearly about solving movement anatomy dysfunctions. I love where I am in my business, and I feel successful.
Fantastic. Okay, great. One extra word. I love it, Cheryl. I love it for you, and so easy. Like, yes, of course you get to have this. Another word that we want to be thoughtful about as we're vision questing is I can do something. I can have it, or I can do, or I can experience. Of course you can. You're fully capable. But are you experiencing it? Right? So just notice for all of us who are listening, just again, look back through what you wrote and make sure it's not, I can. The question is, are you? Because in this
I am.
Yes, because in this part 3, you are.
I am.
Because can implies capable, and you're already capable. But are you experiencing it? Are you living your potential? That's what we're up to here as we vision quest. Awesome, Cheryl. Gorgeous. And yes, of course, that's all going to be yours. Thank you for going first. Another share? Anybody else willing? Part 3, go ahead, Anna.
So I'm teaching functional anatomy courses and workshops at 3 studios. I'm teaching 10 private clients a week. I'm earning 5 times what I'm earning now. I'm working 3 days a week and 2 weekends a month. I'm teaching as part of teacher training course. I have a strong social media following. My website is updated with a strong logo. I'm renting a studio part-time. I no longer, so the other part, I no longer doubt my ability to do the work I do. I have arrived and will springboard from here. I've achieved my objectives. I feel great to be back to having a plan.
Would love it, Anna. Okay, yes, you get to have all of that done. Let's consider it done, absolutely. The only difference now is the gap of time between now and then, but you're going to have it. So I love that. Thank you for sharing. One invitation for you, Anna, is when you wrote, I no longer, I understand where the intention is for that, but we only get to create a vision in what we do want. So what we want to be in vision questing is what we do want, not in what we don't want. Okay, so if you no longer have X, what will you be experiencing? What are you experiencing as you're writing at present tense? And just go ahead and scribble out that word and rewrite it. Okay, awesome. Thank you, Anna. And Anna, did you have feelings? Yeah, you did have feelings in there too, right? Feeling accomplished, I heard. What else?
Yeah, that was the I no longer doubt my ability. That
Yeah.
was the feeling.
No, baby. What are you feeling? What are you feeling?
Completely confident and capable in the work I do.
Great. Confident, capable, beautiful. I love it. Awesome. And I'm noticing that there's some others who look back down at their paper as well as you were sharing, Anna. So thank you for your contribution. And we do get inspired, right, when we share with each other. So thank you for those of you who shared and were vulnerable. Appreciate it. We're all learning and maximizing. You know, I took a course over the weekend, and I can't remember what the phrase was. I wrote it down. It's somewhere on a piece of paper on my desk. But the idea was that in order to celebrate, in order to be in possibility, it actually does take practice, right? So these editing and these word choices, again, we want to be thoughtful with our brain and not be punitive because we wrote the word can instead of I am, right? We don't want to be punitive about it. This is a skill. That's why I'm using it as part of our training today. It's a skill to learn how to do this. So just allow yourselves to be in edits if you're in edits. The objective is to get a final vision that works for you, not to be in a beat up while you're creating it, right? Again, it's creative writing and it is a skill. And I'll find the note that I wrote down somewhere. Okay, great. Do we want to do one more? Is there anybody else? Are these helpful for you to hear part threes? Yeah. Is there one more person who's willing to share?
Well,
Is it you, second Lori?
Hey, Val.
I'm going to rename you.
Mine's not near as detailed as Anna's. I definitely can use more work in this department, as we
Okay,
know.
great. Yeah, great. Do you want to
Okay.
take another minute to write,
I'll,
or do you?
I'll take a stab at what I have, and I know I could probably refine it, but this is
Great.
New worlds to me.
Great.
I'm solving more complex problems more easily, feeling elated to make more of a greater difference in the lives of the clients, and I'm making more of a physical difference for the clients than I have ever done before. I'm making more money than I have before, and it feels really good. I am fulfilled with joy.
Wow, you nailed it. That's
That
so
was
good.
so nice.
Yeah. No, it was really good. Really, really, really good. Okay, I love it. And yeah, notice that even as we go to share something big, our being wants to like make it smaller. Like, oh, there must be something, right? So just be aware, just be aware. There's nothing
Okay.
wrong with us. You're wired with a brain to keep you alive. It's a gorgeous thing. I am grateful for my brain. And I get to manage it. Right? Just like my appetite. I get to manage that too sometimes, right? It's not a bad thing. It's just who I am. It's just who you be. So just notice if your brain takes you to places that don't feel good, that's always a choice, right? When we don't feel good, it's because of something we thought. And if we think it, we can choose a thought. Thoughts don't come automatically. And if they do seem to come automatically, we can have another thought. We can choose another thought, right? We have this amazing way of like being the beer and being the observer of the beer. Yeah, we have this, right? It's part of our consciousness. So if things feel automatic, no need to arm wrestle that, just manage it and choose something different, right? So we want to make sure that our thoughts are not beating up on us, okay? So Val, I love what you came up with. And my invitation for you, as you express that you want to elaborate on your vision questing, and this is an invitation for all of us, by the way, is to be specific, right? You'd be amazed at what happens when you're specific, because when you're specific, there's something to connect it to. So if you're saying, I don't remember exactly the words that you chose, Val, which were fine and lovely. I'm making more money, I think is what you said. I invite you and everybody else who's here, what is that dollar? Right? And if it's 3 times what you're currently making, you know what that dollar is, right? Because you wrote it down in your part 1. So be specific. More money than you've ever made could be $10 more. Like, would that be satisfying? Probably not. That's not what you mean. So write what you mean. right? Get specific in this part 3. You can't be too clear about what you want. And I'm going to add one piece here that used to get me in a pickle every time. Here it is. Don't do like me, Bee. Do like you. We get to be specific and not demanding. Okay, so we get to be specific and not demanding. So it used to be when I would vision quest and I would write down something specific, meaning tangible and measurable. That's what I mean by specific. I would write down something tangible and measurable, like I will have, this many, I don't know, new shoes. I will have this many new shoes. And I would write down, I'm making this up, right? I've never had this one, but let's just say I wrote down, I will have 4 pairs of new shoes by the end of the time frame that we're working in. Well, what I didn't write down that goes with the tangible and measurable with the 4 shoes is what type of shoes and how much do they cost? So what if I wrote 4 pairs of shoes and that would be $25 a pair, but I had actually only 1 pair of new shoes at the end, but it was $100. Is that the same measurable? Or do I demand that I have 4 pairs of shoes at any price? So this is what I'm saying about demand, right? If I had actually created that I found my way into a new pair of shoes and they were the most expensive shoes I ever wore, would that negate the other 3? The reason I'm bringing this up is because, again, your brain's going to look for a problem. So if I implied 4 pairs of shoes at $25 a pair, but what I actually created was the ownership of 1 new pair of shoes at $100, which I would never normally spend on a pair of shoes, now I can find a problem in that. Instead of that, I actually did create what I said I wanted, which is $100 of new shoes. So be really specific, but not demanding. So if you're saying, I want to make more money, how much more money? How much more money? What would feel good to you? Remember, we're in a celebratory and excited place. So I could tell when I just gave you that measurable, everybody got a little heavy. I felt it actually across the Ethernet. Be thoughtful about making this heavy. You won't create from a place that feels punitive. So what would be exciting to you? Does it have to be 4 pairs of shoes? Or does it have to be a quantity of new pairs of shoes? Does it have to be something sort of like better than what I already have? Would you be satisfied with $10 more? What would be exciting for you? What would be the exciting part of what you're creating? Okay. All right, and make any edits if you need them.
I already know mine.
Okay, did you write them down? Did you write them down, Val?
Yes, I put it in because I'm looking for a $10 raise. And for the office where I'm at, it would be what I'm worth as well as the fair split that we had agreed on.
Okay, and is it $10 a client, $10 an hour, $10 a week,
An
$10
hour.
a year?
Did
you write that
an
down?
hour.
Did you write that down? Okay, good. Okay, great. I can't, also in this course I took over the weekend, it's interesting. I didn't realize all this was gonna support us today, but everywhere we learn, we just keep pouring in. It's all connected. There was a study that was shared in this training about 10%. If you may have an idea that you're going to create something, you'll have a 10% chance of succeeding. The number goes up by digits if you write it down, and you still will only have like a 35% chance of actually creating it. What gets to happen is you get to write it down, you get to commit to it by taking action. We're going to get there next. And you get to have accountability for it. And that's the only way that you can get your success up to 90%. So we're going to go into the committed action part now. Okay, so this is part 2. So that if you're working on your columns, this is the center column. If you're working on separate pages, this is your second page. Okay, this is your second page. And I'm going to preface this part again with manage your brain. Manage your brain. Really easy here to get super snickery and punitive. This is what's wrong with you, right? Don't do that. Don't do that. Here's what we are going to craft in part 2. What we're going to craft from an excited place So I recommend reading what you love in part 1, reminding yourself of how excited you are in part 3, like, holy gosh, that's my year. Woo, 2024 was my year. And then start writing part 2. Okay, in that order. Highly recommend that. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple extra minutes to do this. Part 2 is what's needed. What's needed to get you from where you are in column 1, in part 1, to the end of the year with everything that you said you're creating for yourself, which is, by the way, completely possible. The 3 of you who shared out loud, done. Like, I mean it sincerely. So easy, you have no idea. So done, so doable. And you're not there yet. So what's needed to get you there? What's needed in the gap? And again, this isn't about how terrible you are or how less than you are. Don't do that. Okay. This is like, wow, I get to partner with this person. I get to double down on this. I get to recommit to that. Okay. Who do you get to surround yourself with? What ways of being do you get to be? What do you know works that you get to recommit to? And what else have you not yet explored that you know you've been putting off and that you know is the final piece to you and you've been making excuses up until now? Don't list the excuses. Just list the thing that you know you get to do now. This is your year, okay? This part 2 is very internal, okay? You don't need anything from someone else. Now, you might need to collaborate. You might need to align with a mentor or a trainer. You might need to finish that course that you signed up for. You might need to sign up for a new course. You might be with us in Mastery this year. You might need other people along with you, but none of them are going to deliver to you what it is that you get to create for yourself on the inside. Okay. And you probably do have other places that you get to collaborate because we're not lone wolves. Nobody gets successful on an island by themselves. Okay. Every successful person in the world is surrounded by other amazing people. So there are other people involved, but you don't need them to do something for you. What you get to do is connect with them. Okay. So what's needed, what's in the gap, and it's an internal process. I'm going to give you guys 3.5 minutes on this one. Okay, and just begin to wrap that up. Okay, and before we move into reviewing our part 2, you guys did amazing. Before we get into reviewing, just lift your pen and maybe lift your eyes and then look back down at your part 2 and see if there's anything punitive in there. You know, this year you really need to blah, blah, blah. Just notice if there's any persnickety in there. Just notice and take it out, okay? Believe it or not, psychology shows us that we will respond to punishment or the threat of punishment for about 30 seconds. And then after that, it doesn't land anymore and we become resistant. So what we know about our visions coming to fruition is that they cannot come to fruition if you're in resistance. Nothing new can come to you if you're in resistance. Resistance means I'm resisting getting there. So we don't want to create anything that's punitive or even sounding slightly threatening or even has the energy of either, because you won't be able to get into committed action then. What will end up happening is your resistance wall will come back up and then part 3 can't come to be. And your part 3 is totally doable. Okay, so just notice that and give yourselves an honest edit. Rewrite any words, maybe scribble it out. Be in optimism and positivity and encouragement and upliftment in what's in the gap. Okay, and I'm going to keep talking here. What's in the gap gets to be curiosity and enthusiasm. What's in the gap gets to be partnering with someone else, feeling support, right? If what you have listed in part 2 is absent of any of those, or has anything that's overshadowing any of those, then you get to rewrite it. You get to re-edit. Re-edit, edit. I think just edit. Okay. And so how many of you in your part 2 do feel optimistic, like it's doable, do feel like I got it? Like, yeah, I can see that there is a very clear path to part 3. Yeah, awesome. Shelly, you too? You see it? Okay, beautiful, great. If you can see what's in the gap to get you to part 3 and it feels totally doable, guess what? Your year is gonna look like it does on part 3. It's just that easy, right? It's just that clear of a path. Now, it sounds easy. And when as soon as, I bet you as soon as we complete for today, you're gonna look back at that list and go, oh boy, okay, now what? Okay, got it. I know, just like me, and there is a way. If you're looking at list 1, at your part 1, and you're seeing the love, and you're seeing your goodness, and you're looking at part 3, and you're feeling the enthusiasm and the probability of it absolutely being yours, and you can see in part 2, like, oh, there's a doable path here, then the only way that it won't come true is 2 ways. 1, you tell yourself it can't, or 2, you refuse to do it. That's it. Those are the only 2 things in your way. And those can be plenty, by the way, but they don't have to take you out of the game. So you don't need to get in your way. You get to keep reading the lists. You get to keep reading part 1 and finding the love. You get to keep reading part 3 and feeling what it feels like. And you get to be in committed action on part 2. If you know clearly and have identified what's in the gap, you get to be committed to filling the gap. Okay. Does anybody want to share what's in their part 2? Especially I'll invite you, if you're not really clear how to do that, but you know that there's something missing and it seems doable, but you don't really know what to do about it, I'd invite you to share. I might be able to support you. Anybody willing to share part 2?
I'll
Shelley?
be brave. Go
Okay,
Shelley.
Val, let's go Shelley first, yeah, and then we'll come back to you. Go ahead, Shelley.
Get my massage license.
Okay.
Figure out how to create a massage business. Mentor with Gina, or get into the program. Some of the others are just place to practice, marketing, create the hours, commit. Really, the biggest part for me is committing.
Is committing. Okay.
Knowing that I deserve it. Focusing and not getting distracted with too many other interests.
Mm-hmm.
and believe.
Mhm.
So finding ways to manage those.
Okay, Shelley, it's gorgeous. Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing. So did everybody that's listening, did you all hear how doable this is for Shelley?
Mhm.
Did you all hear how doable it is? Yeah, so we're all nodding. So that's awesome, right? Because if there's others that are on the outside of you that see it so doable, then we know that like, oh, it's doable. I can put that inside me too. So you've got this, Shelley, totally got this, right? And it's really easy when we have a history, like, oh, but all these other times I dropped the ball, all these other times I didn't do that. It's really easy to do that. Don't do that. Just stay to part 3. Just stay in part 3. Because if you had part 3 and it was clear, part 3 did not include your history. Part 3 included your future. And if you felt good when you wrote part 3, stay there. Again, it's just mind management. Do you want to spend time on all the other things that came before this? Or do you want to spend time on what's coming? Our brain is going to go with automatically. It's going to go with what came before because that's where the history and the pattern is, right? Patterning is a real thing. There's neuroplasticity there. So there's no need to beat ourselves up for what happened in the past. There's no need at all. We've said that even from part 1. So just keep reading part 3 and know that it's all doable. What's in the gap is what's in the gap. And what I recommend is one step at a time, right? So we don't need to come up with a whole marketing plan for a business we don't have yet. But what we, right? Like don't overwhelm yourself. And maybe that's, in quarter 2 of this year. So perfect. You know that you get to create that and it's on your list. But I wouldn't start with the thing that overwhelms us that doesn't create results right away. What you want to do with your in the gap in your part 2 is you want to go with the thing that's going to move the needle the most, or the thing that hinges on all other things, right? So you said you want to get your massage therapy license. I see that a lot of the other things on your list sort of hinge on that, right? In order to have a marketing plan for a massage business and rent a space, you got to have a license to be able to do the thing. So all the other things get to happen. Sure, they're in the gap. Start on the first one. And here's what I also recommend. If your list looks like Shelley's, where there's like nows and laters, put a start by next to what that line item is. So starting in January of 2024, I'm going to look at getting my massage therapy license. Starting on the marketing for my business, I'm going to start somewhere in April. After I look for the space, which I'm going to start looking for in March because the state boards are March 1st, right? So do your chronology of it so that you can keep yourself on task. You know it's in the gap. It all gets to be completed by you, but the overwhelm is real. Again, our brain's going to look for problems. Our brain's going to look for problems. We get to manage that. Nothing in the gap is a problem. It's just committed action. So put your chronology down in your committed action and then focus. Okay. Does that support you, Shelley?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Does that support everybody else in putting your chronology together? If you haven't started doing that, I highly recommend you put that down there now. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so just in the interest of time, well, do you guys want to would another share be supportive? I always do this. I run the clock on Tuesdays. I could stay with you guys all day.
Okay.
So go ahead,
Just
Val.
keep going. Just keep going. That's okay.
Just keep going. Okay. Does it support you though? Would you all like another part 2 share? Or you feel complete on that? Everybody good? Okay, great. All right. So here's what you get to do with your part 1, your part 2, and your part 3. I've said it a few times. I'm going to keep saying it. Okay. You get to review it. This doesn't get shoved in a notebook and stuffed away somewhere. It really doesn't. I know I say that all the time. And if you guys came to my place, you would see I have papers everywhere. And I also have learned the hard way from this, right? Like I, 1 year also put an entire business plan together for the entire year. Holy smoke, that was not easy. I actually recommend that you do quarters at a time, Q1, Q2, Q3. Like at this point, at the beginning of 2024, I have an idea of what I have my vision obviously for Q4, but I have an idea of Q3, but I haven't mapped out what I'm going to do every month that month, that quarter, but I know exactly what I'm doing this month. Like my days are listed. So it gets a little lighter as you go depending on where you're at. But you do get to revisit this part 1, 2, and 3 before the next quarter. Okay, so my point is, right now in January of 2024, you do not need to chart your whole entire year. You need to have an idea, and you do, because you have part 3 and it's clear. But you get to be super crystal clear on what happens in quarter 1, and you get to be in committed action about that. The only way to do that is to remind yourself what's on your list. What's your part 2 look like? What do I get to get completed right now in month 1, and then in quarter 1, and then down smaller into week 1, and then day 1, right? What do I get to do today? What do I get to do this week? What do I get to do this month? What do I get to do this quarter? And you keep repeating that, revisiting it today, this week, this quarter, today, this week, this quarter, and you keep taking your part 2 through to quarter 2. Okay, and you just, and you get to stay in committed action. I recommend having an accountability buddy come here every week and check in and make sure that, you know, people that heard you and that are holding that vision for you and see it's totally possible, that you're accountable to them, accountable to us every week. If you want that to be me, put it in the student lounge, put it in the chat, anywhere you want to check in regularly. Here's what usually happens. Most people will do that, vision questing, New Year's resolutions, whatever, for about a week. Some will get through the first month, and most people don't. And there's a million reasons why. And none of them are negative. They're just, we're not wired for that. It's not our astrological sign. Like, there's a whole bunch of reasons why we actually don't do it. So having that buddy, having that accountability person is key. And it absolutely aligns with the study that was just shared with me over the weekend. I was like, oh my God, I just heard that. And now I have data that backs it up. So if you have an accountability buddy, someone that you can check in with every week, yes, I'm still filling in my part 2. Yes, I'm taking committed action steps on what's in the gap. Yes, I have my chronology listed and I'm committed to taking XYZ action. It's the only way that it actually comes to be. Okay. And I'll remind us just before we wrap up here that it's all doable. You all were so excited. You all were so excited at the end of part 3. You were like, yes, I can make this happen. This feels really good. And then you wrote part 2 and you're like, totally doable. It's not that hard. And then we're going to hang up today and you're going to be like, oh shit, where do I start? What do I do? Right? Don't do that. Don't do that. Put your chronology down, get your accountability in place, and make the commitment to have accountability this week before you forget that and then feel like you're in the weeds. Okay. And I think I started to say this and didn't say this, but I also made this mistake where I had charted the whole year. I did not finish that sentence. I had charted the whole year. And then the following year later, I came back and I was like, oh my God, the whole business plan's still in the same folder. Ugh, weird. Like, I never even opened the folder again, right? That doesn't work. So I am a paper queen. I have Post-it notes. I have pop-ups. I have all kinds of things to keep me on track. And if that's what it takes to manage your mind, then that's great. That means you get A+ for being the good manager. Okay. So everything that you want is yours. And I can't wait to see how you create that this year. I'm here for you as accountability. If that serves you, please lean in, ask for support, request support, be support for someone else. No successful person is a man on an island alone. It's never been done. It's not going to happen now. And we all get to celebrate in less than 365 days, the end of this year, what this part 3 is for you. It's going to happen, all of you. Okay. All that to say, thank you so much for being here with me on a Tuesday training at the beginning of the year. I appreciate you for being here. I appreciate all of you and your honest, transparent, and vulnerable shares. Thank you so much for contributing to all of us today so that we can craft the perfect vision plan for our year to come. And mostly, thank you so much for the incredible work that you do in the world. I'll see you guys next week. Bye for now.